The New York Giants have the stupidest quarterback situation in the NFL right now. At the start of this offseason, one of the first moves that they made was re-signing Tommy DeVito, which was understandable. He's a fan favorite. He's a capable backup. Then in free agency, they signed both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. At the time, I was thinking that they signed both of those guys because they were going to have a legitimate quarterback battle to decide who was going to be the guy, the BQB1 for this team, and save the jobs of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Because with both of these guys being on the hot seat, it's important that they get the quarterback situation right this year. Because with how tough their schedule is, if they can't get serviceable quarterback play this year, they're not even going to last half of the season. So they get Jameis Winston, they get Russell Wilson. You think that is going to be a quarterback battle between the two, because if your job is on the line, you will feel comfortable leaving it in the hands of veteran quarterbacks. But then the draft rolls around, they take Abdul Carter, best player available, and then they trade back into the first round and get Jackson Dart. And this is when the Giants quarterback situation becomes stupid to me. Because if you are Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen and your future is blurry, you don't know if you're going to be around next year to continue to help develop Jackson Dart. So instead of drafting a guy who more than likely won't see the field this year, it would have made more sense to draft a player that could have had an instant impact for you this year so you can improve your chances of saving your jobs. I don't understand the Giants quarterback situation right now. And it's even more confusing that Brian Daboll came out and said that Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback and the competition is going to be between Tommy DeVito, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart for the backup quarterback spot. What kind of sense does that make? Russell Wilson was starting for the Steelers last year, led them to the playoffs, and they didn't want to retain him. And it was for a very good reason. The stats are a lie. The numbers aren't always what they are made out to be. Women lie. They say numbers don't lie, but they are. Stats can be deceiving. And if you watched Russell Wilson play for the Steelers last year, all this dude did was throw 3-4 occasional deep balls. But for the majority of his tenure starting for the Steelers, it was just nothing but checkdowns. It would have made a lot of sense if Brian Daboll continued to drag on this quarterback competition. Because right now, there's not a gap between Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. If anything, Jameis Winston gives the New York Giants a better shot at winning games this year than what Russell Wilson does, because with Jameis Winston at quarterback, your offense has more potential because you're going to be more explosive due to how aggressive Jameis Winston is at pushing the ball downfield. Malik Neighbors could very well go for 2,000 yards this season with Jameis Winston at quarterback. It's no wonder that Jerry Jeudy, who was a disappointment up until Jameis Winston became the starting quarterback of the Browns, and all of a sudden, he had the best season of his career, and he made it to the Pro Bowl. Every receiver that Jameis Winston throws the football to, he increases their productivity. And if Brian Daboll is the offensive guru that he's made out to be, he should be able to lower those turnover numbers. But Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen rather play it safe than play it aggressive like their jobs aren't on the line. Why would you draft Jackson Dart? Back to that. And you know that there's no guarantee you're going to be around to keep developing this guy if you don't win this season. And I look at the Giants schedule, and I don't know how they even get to 8 wins. By the time you get to Thanksgiving, you could be 2-9, 2-10, and you're already looking forward to 2026, and you're already on the brink of losing your job. Because from what we heard from John Mara last year, the guy expects to win. I don't think he's going to be okay keeping Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll around, going 7-10, 8-9. It looks like he has pretty high expectations for this season. So why would they go about just naming Russell Wilson the starting quarterback the first day of camp? And then two, why would they draft Jackson Dart if they had no intentions of starting him this season? If you know the guy is a project, why are you drafting somebody that's going to take some time to develop when there's no guarantee that you're going to be around to develop him? It just didn't make sense to me. Now, maybe there's a scenario out there when maybe the Giants owner made the decision to trade back up for Jackson Dart. Maybe he fell in love with him, and even if Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen don't work out, he wants the next regime to be able to develop him. Maybe John Mara was the dude who ultimately pushed the trigger on trading up for Jackson Dart. And if that is the case, then I have no issues with it because you're the owner. But if Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen were the trigger man behind the decision to get Jackson Dart, it was stupid, especially when you already had 3 quarterbacks on the roster. You just gave Tommy DeVito an extension to kick off the offseason. So now what are you going to do? Are you going to cut him and lose money? Are you going to cut Jameis Winston? Because you're not going to cut Jackson Dart. He's untouchable. This essentially could be a redshirt season for him. The Giants quarterback situation is just incredibly stupid to me. And you can say that the Browns quarterback situation is stupid, but at least the Browns are taking an approach of, you know what? They say if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. Well, what if you have 4? You know, you got Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. You got Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Somebody out of the 4 has to be good. But in the Giants situation, though, unlike Kevin Stefanski, Brian Daboll doesn't have the security that Kevin Stefanski has. We know that Kevin Stefanski is still going to be around for possibly another year or 2. But there's no guarantee that Brian Daboll will, along with Joe Schoen. I just don't understand how the Giants have gone about this quarterback situation. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.